We could call to order tonight's Charter Township of Oxford Planning Commission regular meeting, Thursday, April 24th, 2025. We could start by everybody standing and paying respects to our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marianne, how are you?
Sorry, I'm just taking a
Thank you very much.
Doing well.
So far, so good.
We could note the roll.
Noted, there is a quorum, and if everybody could please turn your mics on when you speak. If you turn it off when you're not speaking, just remember to turn it on and speak into it.
Thank you. All right, number 4, approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Number 5, conflict of interest, ex parte contact. Anybody have anything for this evening? Seeing none, we will move on to number 6, approval of minutes, Planning Commission regular meeting, March 27th, 2025.
Motion to approve minutes, Planning Commission regular meeting, March 27, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries as well. Number 7, public comment on items not scheduled for public hearing or on this agenda. We have quite the turnout tonight. Is anybody here to talk about something that is not on tonight's agenda?
It's not on tonight's agenda, but there was a posting.
Can you come up to the mic and
I'll move this down to me. There was a post recently in the Oxford Leader about another parcel of land that you're going to rezone on Market Street and Lapeer Road, southwest corner. And it's being rezoned from some commercial setting to general commercial. And I'm wondering what the impact of that change is.
I will be honest with you, that has not been brought before us yet, so I really wouldn't have.
It's scheduled for next week, I believe.
May 7th. May 8th.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that'll get presented to us probably in the next week or so. So we'll have some information on that. I haven't seen that one
Okay,
yet.
so we have to wait to find out.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Anybody else? All right, moving on to number 8, commissioners' comments. Anybody have anything they'd like to share before we get started? Okay, number 9, petitions. We have 2 petitions for tonight. And I will start with petition PC 25-004, petitioner Design House, 3300 Auburn Road, Suite 300, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326. Public hearing in motion. The petitioner is requesting a rezoning from C1 local commercial to R1 single family residential, parcel ID 0421200005, located on Market Street, approximately 2.6 acres. And what we will do, just so that everybody is aware of how these meetings will proceed, we will start off with a presentation by the planner, followed by a presentation by the petitioner. Once that is completed, we will open up the public hearing for public testimony. And the way that part works is any member of the public is welcome to come up and speak, come up to the podium, state your name. You will be given 3 minutes to discuss anything thing you would like to bring up about that petition. All comments will be addressed to the chair, not to the petitioner, not to the other commissioners. You're allowed to speak once until everybody else is completed, and then if you have something to add that has not been shared, you would have an opportunity to speak again. Once all of the public testimony is complete, we will close the public hearing. We will get comments from the township consultants and staff. We will review correspondence. I believe we have a couple of emails that were sent in regarding this. The commissioners will discuss. We will make a motion. We will discuss that motion and vote to approve or deny. So with that, if we can start with the presentation by our planner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mateo Pastelacqua, Workman Associates. We are the planning consultants for the township. Before we get started this evening, I just want to introduce you to Grayson Moore. He works with me at CWA and helped out a lot with this project. I'll probably be helping me out in the future as things continue to get busier in Oxford. So this evening, correct, you have two petitions in front of you for rezonings along Market Street. The first one that we'll take a look at is Parcel A. So this application is to rezone a 2.5 acre lot on the south side of Market near the intersection of Stony Lake. The site is zoned C1 local commercial. The request is to rezone it to R1 single family, 12,000 square foot lots. The application states the intent of the rezone is to construct 4 single family homes. However, no formal site plan has been submitted. Zones surrounding the parcel are C1, R1, RM, and R. Our review does provide both the permitted and special land uses that would be available under the proposed zoning of R1 for that site. And the site appears to be relatively flat. There are the potential for wetlands on or near the property, and this parcel does abut Waterstone Lake to the south. If you give me a moment here, we'll scroll to some of the information that the applicant provided so we all kind of have a visual of the area. So again, it is a rezoning. This just helps kind of provide the context of the area that we're discussing. So when we look at rezonings, we kind of go through the master plan to see kind of the guidance that it provides the Planning Commission on making these recommendations. The 2019 master plan does provide goals as it relates to residential development. One of them being that to allow for a range of housing opportunities at different densities and styles, while remaining consistent with the character of surrounding areas and taking into consideration the availability of public utilities and natural capacity of the land. We do note that the proposed zone does have a strong correlation with this goal as it relates to kind of the surrounding uses and the way the area has been developed. Another objective is that the design and character of future residential land uses should promote village, resort, rural, and natural landscapes traditionally found in the Oxford area. And again, this is, these zones would provide for something very similar to what has developed in the area over time. The 2019 future land use designation for the site is village commercial, which speaks to commercial uses of a more urban design and layout. Obviously, this does not confer with the 2019 future land use designation. However, the master plan does state that the Planning Commission is allowed to consider changing market conditions as it relates to rezoning requests. The future land, my apologies, you are working your way through the master plan draft right now. The draft that is working its way through the review process does cite this area or this property as a multifamily designation. However, that is a draft plan. It is not adopted. Your 2019 plan is still kind of your cornerstone for reference when looking at these petitions. As far as development potential is concerned, if rezoned, the lot would allow for various residential permitted and special land uses that are outlined in our report. Accounting for the current housing market, the site has development potential under the R1, the requested R1 zoning. So now we'll take a look at the rezoning standards that are set forth in the ordinance that the Planning Commission will, again, kind of use to guide their recommendation. Consisting with the master plan, while it's not consistent with the current master plan future land use designation, you are allowed some flexibility to consider changing market needs as it relates to that this is future land use village commercial and what's being requested is a residential zone. Compatibility with the site's physical and environmental nature. The current zoning allows for more intense uses. Again, the site may contain wetlands and is adjacent to bodies of water. All of that information becomes much more pertinent to when we start to talk about site plans, but in general, what the area is zoned now allows for more intense uses than what's being proposed. Compatibility with surrounding zones and uses in terms of environment, density, traffic, infrastructure, and property values. The R1 zone is conducive with the surrounding conditions and does not appear to be a conflict with traffic infrastructure or an influence on property values. Utility capacity to support the zone. Again, Jim can speak a little bit more to that, but in general, there are services, utility services available in the area, and I believe there is capacity to support the different uses under the proposed zoning of R1. Road traffic capacity, permitted and special land uses would generate varying levels of traffic. There are big, long lists of what you can do in these zones. However, as we noted, R1 is less intensive than C1, and Market Street was always designed with some sort of development. There's envisioned in these areas. What the use was at the time is, I'm not saying neither here nor there, but the road was always designed in mind with development. There are existing curb cuts on the site from when kind of these things were anticipated. The lot would conform, a demand for the proposed zoning. I mean, housing is in demand in the township and the region and the country, so yes, the R1 zoning could be developable and there is a demand for it. The lot would conform to dimensional standards. The lot would conform to the lot as a whole would conform to the R1 dimensional standards. Should a proposal like what the applicant has put forward make its way to site plan, land divisions would likely be required. But the lot as it is now would conform to R1. The townships to deem if the proposed zone is more appropriate from other potential zones. Large-scale commercial, industrial, residential would be more intense on the site and difficult per the site size and its location. Small-scale commercial could fit on the site. However, we know that this site's been zoned to C1 for a very long time, and there hasn't really been any viable development proposals under that zoning in that time frame. So while it may have been envisioned at one point in time, the market really hasn't pushed anything viable forward to develop it as such. Multiple families possible on the site, however, the lot dimensions would make it somewhat difficult to meet certain standards depending on the density that would be requested out of that multiple family. Are they creating or they're requesting spot zoning? They are not. This has been the only application from the applicant there's been no other application from the applicant in less than a year. And as it relates to any other considerations for public safety, health, and welfare and investment, R1 would likely increase the private investment in the area because there's more demand for that type of development, meaning the lot would be improved. And we don't really foresee any issues with public safety. The fire department did not have any concerns. I'll let Jim speak to his points, but I don't believe he cited any concerns. So with that, the proposal is consistent with market demands and conducive with the location. There is a conflict with the 2019 Master Plan Future Land Use Designation, but again, I've explained that you have some leeway to consider market conditions and things of that nature. So that is the review as it relates to Parcel A and the R1 request. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
I guess if I may, real quickly, just because we do have two conditions that we need to go through. This was the first one. These are two separate applications. There's two separate views. It's two separate motions. So while it's brought together in tandem, it's two separate considerations, two separate actions, two separate set of questions. However, the
Okay.
planning commission wants
So
to.
we'll keep the questions to this portion.
Correct.
Start down here. Do you have any?
Well, I have some questions, or just general conversation. I'm not sure if maybe I should wait until after the petitioner is done, Mr. Chair, or if you'd like me to go now and kind of walk through some of the questions that I have.
Go ahead and post them now if you'd like, and then maybe the petitioner can address those when they.
Okay, so just starting with this road here, looking
We're
at.
talking about.
Not talking about that one,
We're
yeah.
talking about the.
Oh, just, I'm
just
sorry.
the-
Yeah, I
Okay.
know.
Okay,
It's
yeah, most of my focus is on that.
Okay.
This area here shows proposed parking. Right now, there's no striping there. And, I think that it would not be in the community's best interest to strike that or to have parking in that area. And it's shown on the plan, so I just wanted to, I just don't think adding that would be wise.
It's a fair observation. It doesn't play a strong role in this evening.
Sure, okay.
It would,
Okay, a lot of my comments are along that line about how the, maybe not exactly to the rezone of it, but it was how it would be used in the future.
well, maybe, why don't we go through me, Jim, if the planning commission chooses the applicant, and maybe that answers your questions naturally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Then we will move on to the presentation by the petitioner.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Joe Latosis, 3615 West Drainer Road, Oxford, Michigan. I'm with Design House Architecture. So we've been working with the owner of these properties for 14, 15 years. I think they obtained the original parcel in 2013, the north parcel, and then this southern parcel in 2015, I believe. So they have marketed these parcels as commercial for years with no interest. And we've worked with them on possible solutions on how to use the property, how to develop it. And this is a solution we've kind of come to. We feel that the single-family homes on this property are conducive to the surrounding community. We feel that the size of the homes are similar to the size that are in the adjacent areas. And we feel this is an appropriate use for that land. I will say that the parking that's out in front of the homes that are shown on our concept plan are existing. We have no problem getting rid of them or not striping them or whatever staff recommends that we should do. But I think Mateo did an amazing job presenting the project. I'm not sure what to add. It was extensive talk on it. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions, provide any additional information that you may need.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Sure. So on the, some of the concerns that I see on the development of this, in this area are the homes on the water. There's been development on the west side of this lake in the past couple of years, and a lot of construction debris has been blowing around. And I know you're just representing the developer, but having some extra steps to contain debris that's flying around it would be beneficial to everyone involved. Some maybe wherever the sedimentation fence is placed around the site for soil erosion sedimentation control, maybe a further 4 or 5 foot snow fence or something is put up to help when debris gets wind blown, and try to trap that so it doesn't blow onto the lake or around the neighborhood. Or some other construction dumpsters that have lids or something that can close versus big open 40-yard dumpsters that just debris can fly out with high winds. And on the there's a safety path. Excuse me. There's a safety path on the along Market to the north of these proposed homes. That path is 25 years old, and there will be 2 new driveways according to this proposed plan cut through that. It seems to make sense to replace that entire path as part of this development. One, just to make it new, and then it gives the ability of the development to change the elevation to match where the driveways would be. I think that would be a benefit to the community and to the development.
Yeah, I agree. That was brought up in our pre-application meeting, and we agree that we're going to redo the entire safety path in front of these properties. Redo where the drive aisle will come through, have the ADA ramp sidewalk coming down with the tactile strip. Meet all the requirements of the city and, or the township and the state.
I see a lot of people walk along that path along the lake, and I see that as this proposal, the property would intercept that or block that off, and it would go, well, here, right?
Correct, it'd be
So this
rerouted
would be
to
cut
the north
off.
side.
I would ask that if, there could be on the west side of that property, in this area, this path, that be somehow reworked, so there's a path, not a path to nowhere left.
Mhm.
It would just be cut off. That should be potentially be considered for being reworked. Those are my main comments about that. Appreciate consideration on some of those. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions?
I guess the only question I have is, do you know the approximate square footage of the homes that are being built on this property?
Approximately 3,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms.
Thank you, that's all.
I guess I have one question. What kind of a timeline are you anticipating on this?
Probably construction next 2026, next season.
Okay.
Once, if we were to get approved tonight, we still have to come back, go through site plan approval for the sites. Lot combination, design of the homes, so it would be spring of 2026 at the earliest, I imagine.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Corey, Commissioner, Jim Sharp,
Is,
engineering. I can go later.
oh, we can do that now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do that.
Sorry. I'm not gonna let him off the hook, he's going up there.
Yeah, I thought he was under 5 township.
No, it's fine.
Might as well get the excitement out of the way.
Yeah, this will be really exciting. Jim Sharp, Sharp Engineering, Township Engineer. We prepared a brief review letter. We're basically looking at the existing infrastructure and roadways, pathways, those types of things. When we're looking at a rezoning, there's a sanitary sewer that's available to service this property. So it is within the existing sanitary sewer district, so that won't be an issue. With regards to the water supply, again, it's in the water district, and there is adequate water to provide service to these homes. This was originally, I guess, planned, to be commercial, so there is an existing water line that kind of runs actually on between the homes, where the homes are currently shown to be, and the lake. So we would ask that that line be rerouted up along Market Street itself, just for accessibility. People aren't gonna want us in their backyards, and, for the WRC to go out and do service items, they're not gonna like that. So we would ask that they relocate that water line out to the front along Market Street there. With regards to any type of stormwater, storm sewer, I know Don brought up something about soil erosion, that they would apply for the necessary permits and so forth, that these are just residential homes. It's not gonna be like a commercial development where there's gonna be retention ponds or anything like that. So they wouldn't be required for any of those type of aspects. We commented on the pavements, about the 2 drive approaches that are on Market Street. Market Street is under the road commission, so any work that happens there, whether they be the elimination of the parking area, striping, new driveways, all of that has to be submitted by the applicant to the road commission for approvals on that. And with regard to the sidewalks / safety path, again, Don, we did bring that up at a pre-application meeting where they're gonna be replacing everything out in front there just from the construction activities and so forth. It's not in the best of shape, it's not terrible, but it's not in the best of shape either. So, and really from an infrastructure standpoint, that's all that we had to comment on. So if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer those right now or later.
Go ahead.
A question about the road commission.
Sure.
You know, the road, as construction traffic is coming and going during this development, is there an opportunity for the applicant to potentially talk to the road commission about making improvements or doing some heavy maintenance to this road, either during or after the development's complete? I know it can't be a contingent or a condition or anything like that, but it would just be an ask that, you know.
I would be honest, I would say highly unlikely, just for the, you know, if it truly were for residential homes, it would be no different than residential homes that are being built in other areas of Waterstone right now. Those are also public roads.
Right.
If it became, you know, if it came to a point where the road commission noticed damage and they could pinpoint that it was from this development, I'm sure they would, you know, go to the developer, because there will have to be, you know, along with the permit, there's bonds that need to be put in place along with that. So they would, I'm sure, reach out to the applicant at that time if there were, again, if they could say this was caused because of you.
Sure.
So.
Just overall deterioration, you know, continuing.
Correct, yeah, again, it's a
Equipment.
25-year-old road too, you know, and so
Right,
it's
right.
not 100% theirs, but yeah, if they set a crane out there or something and damage the road, that's obvious, then yeah, they're gonna go to them and say, you need to fix this.
Regarding the, this may be related to the preliminary site plan, but is there any discussion about, I see 4 docks, one extending out from each parcel. Is there any plan to change the grade of that? I know there's probably some buffers and things that,
That would be a site plan.
Yeah,
This
that would
is
be a
just
site plan
rezone.
comment, and your ordinance has we call it 25-foot, you know, setback buffer or something in there, so,
okay, thank you.
you know, they wouldn't be able to change the elevation that much.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So, regarding the utilities on this parcel, is there any other, things that would need to be relocated other than the water line? Any other utility type work that would need to be taking place?
In terms of municipal, like township owned, like water, sewer,
Correct.
that type of stuff, no. And again, I don't know exactly like where the gas lines are, I'm assuming they're out in the right of way there, so I would not expect any other additional relocations other than the water line that we're requesting.
Okay. I just asked around the rezoning, right? If it was set up to be commercial, if there's any potential for, you know, things that need to be changed and make it.
I'm not sure, I mean, I haven't seen any transformers set on the property or anything. Obviously, a survey would show that when they finally do come forward with an actual plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I'll be right over here if there's any more. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion, open the public testimony.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, seeing none, we will open the public hearing, public testimony at 6:59 PM. As I said earlier, we will follow the 3-minute rule. So if anybody would like to come up, speak, come to the podium, state your name, and be glad to hear from you.
This is just for this side area.
Just for this portion, correct?
Good evening. Marianne Kane, Stony Lake Village condo resident, 149 Stony Lake Drive. And in relation to this particular development on the south side that we're currently discussing, I just had a couple of comments in regards to the fact that I don't believe we have a member from the Waterstone Board in attendance this evening, but because we've had prior discussions about developing these parcels before, there has been some developments that have come to light in the past regarding Waterstone having some restrictions about having docks on Waterstone Lake and having private access only to Waterstone Lake where those parcels are divided for those 4 luxury homes. So I would just like to make a recommendation that before a decision is made about that there be some further research done to ensure what the Waterstone community does allow and what they do not allow. Also, of those 4 luxury homes, the one that's furthest to the Lapeer Road, they're closest to the gazebo and the bike path area. That particular owner is gonna see a lot of traffic. Even today, the first day we've had nice weather this evening, there's just been tons of traffic with the gazebo and on that safety path area in regards to that. So I just think, to try and keep note that that particular home is, hopefully the owners that will purchase that will realize that there will be a lot of people circling their backyards on nice weather days. And with that, my other points of interest I'd like to address later when we talk about the north side of this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Greg Graham. I live at 821 Cross Circle, so I am on the lake, on the same side as where these 4 homes will be proposed to be built. I have a couple things here. First of all, do we know what HOA they would belong to eventually? They're kind of isolated out there versus our HOA currently, Bay Village. And then the other one would be on South Shore, I guess, would be the 2 options. I don't know if that's been thought out or it's something being talked about later, but just something to figure out. There's some talk about the pathway that's there currently. I believe that the pathways that are directly behind Independence Village, if I'm not mistaken, that's their property. And that pathway probably was designed for residents at one time for them to go for a walk around, and somehow it got connected through the chain. So I'm not too sure what their thoughts are on that pathway and what to do with it. Now with these homes taking up the connection point. And to the connection point, I'm a little bit concerned. We did have an incident not too long ago with some criminals going through, and my cameras picked them up. They're going to every car door in the driveways, checking for open doors and just wandering down and off. So I'm a little concerned if we connect it to Market, it might be an avenue again for people to wander. And I know they can do it currently, but it's more directed towards the park now, currently coming down that way, where this would be nothing more than a pathway to come down and circumvent coming up to Cross Street and coming south on that pathway. So I have a little concern about potential connection of that to to Market Street. And lastly, I think if we get approval for this to go to single family home, that locks that in, correct? It's not going to be, if this doesn't go forward, we're not going to have someone be able to come in the back door and put, like they planned earlier, to have those townhouses and things built on that lot, right? They'd have to come back again and get it rezoned to
Correct.
multifamily. So I just wanted to make sure that was locked in, so we know exactly what we're seeing. So, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kitty Pugliese. I reside on Cedar Street, which is not far from this proposed zoning change. And I'd like to say that from the years of the proposals that have been put in front of this board, this is probably the best one I've ever seen. It makes sense to have it be residential and not multi. It would match everything else that's going on the lake currently. So to me, it makes a lot of sense, and personally, I welcome it, and others who I spoke to also welcome it. My concern at first was, how could they pull off putting 4 homes on this piece of land at the price that land would sell for? But it makes sense now because it's the current owner, so that cleared up for me. It would be a shame to lose that walking path that's there along the lake, but my understanding is the land does go up to the lake, so they have lake rights, which makes perfect sense as well. A walking path that cuts on the side between the home, the west side, and between the Independence Village makes sense, so that people still have the access to walk along the lake. And the HOA is also a concern because you just have 4 single-family homes there, And I don't know if it would be a single HOA or if that's even been put in the proposals that have been placed in front of you to look over. But I wouldn't imagine you would want 4 single-family homes in the same HOA as the townhome, which are connected and would be considered probably more like a condominium or site condominium. So, I mean, my perspective from a realtor of the area and what's happening here now, this makes sense. I thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello. My name is Alexandra Lemassey. I reside at 621 East Lake Trail, so I'm directly adjacent to where if you're looking at the picture, the far right. And I absolutely, like me and my family, we absolutely love this layout as opposed to the multifamily. I do have a question regarding, so right now, that end of the lake, there is a large retention wall, kind of right where it curves out, and then it kind of like stops, and then it's just shoreline. I didn't know if they were planning on making any adjustments or anything like that to the actual retention wall, or bringing it out more to where it would be behind, I guess, all the homes, because right now it kind of goes to the whole first home. That's all retention wall. So if all of the homes are supposed to be, you know, buttered up to lakefront, I guess I was just curious how they were going to bring that out. I didn't know that was discussed, but.
Probably not there yet in the design.
Yeah, and that's something that they would have to address during the site plan.
Okay. Yeah, and all for the rerouting of the path that's currently there, just to kind of go out from both sides and go out onto Market Street. But yeah, I think that was my biggest question, was really the lake and the retention wall, and if they were going to be modifying any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Lemassey from 621 East Lake Trail. That was my wife that just spoke. Again, we would be the adjacent neighbors to these 4 homes, so we're the closest home to them. We're on a part of South Drive. We're right there on East Lake Trail. Or I'm sorry, the Shores HOA is our HOA. I think that's the biggest question here, is where these 4 homes would be grouped into as far as HOA. I know our HOA is relatively small compared to the other adjacent HOA where we can handle this, but that would be something that I think needs to be discussed. I think hands down, we've been here since 2019. This is the best proposal. We've gone through 3 from condos all the way to townhomes to multifamilies. I don't want to look out my backyard and see 16 family homes. So this, hands down, the best. My only concern would be 4 compared to 3, just based off of the sizes and what that's going to look like in the grand scheme of things, compared to, you know, the existing homes that are on the south side of this lake, like mine and my neighbors. There's quite a difference in style on our side compared to the side that is on the north side of the lake, where they're grouped a little bit closer together. So that would be my only concern there. I honestly think that moving the walking trail is in best interest for everybody. I disagree with some of the people here. I think that that house on the far east side of the picture on the far right is actually going to, you know, help minimize the traffic flow through there. That park is not used extensively. If anything, it's more used as a walkway for people to enter our sub into the following sub. So it's going to decrease that. If anything, it will push that out onto the Market Street place, which I am 1,000% for, given that I live on the lake and see everybody who's walking past that walking path. So again, I am 1,000% for this. My only concern would be, you know, 4 homes compared to 3 homes, but other than that, this is spot on. The only, you know, thing that I would comment on is, yeah, you have to build up the existing tree. That is probably the saddest part of this whole process, is just the initial wipe out of that parcel, because it just took all that tree and all that blockage. So now everybody's just seeing straight street, and everybody's seeing from the street straight into all those following homes that are on the lake right now. So again, but proposal wise, yeah. I don't know if we would get much better than this other than 3 homes instead of 4. But besides that, I really, yeah, have no complaints. But job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, with that, the public hearing is closed at 7:12. We will move to comments from township consultants and staff, which you've already,
If I may.
yes.
So the one thing that I want to emphasize tonight is, and the applicants provided this information voluntarily. This layout, this proposal for both lots was not required as part of the rezoning application. They could simply come in front of you tonight and say, we'd like R1 here, we'd like RN there, answer the questions in the application, and that's what you have to work on along with our review. So this information that's in front of everybody tonight was volunteered by the applicant. And while it is very likely that this is their best foot forward, that this is their intent of the land, the amount of due diligence put into a conceptual plan is not the same as the due diligence that is put into a site plan. So there are things, and correct me if I'm wrong, that per their due diligence, if they move forward after this evening, that could turn up something that changes the orientation of where they put one of the houses in the concepts tonight. Changes 10 feet this way, that way, those buildings that are there. The rezoning tonight is about allowing the permitted uses that, in the zones that they are asking for. This is not a site plan review, this is not a site plan application. Again, I'm not here to lead you down the road that the applicant isn't putting their best foot forward and that this isn't their plan for the property. It's just that A, there's still a lot of due diligence to do as it comes to an actual development. And B, what you're charged with this evening is looking at the current zoning, what's permitted and what's special, and what is the requested zoning and what's permitted and what's special, and making your decision from there. Again, happy to answer your questions. Again, when this kind of information's in the application, it's natural for the conversation to go that way. I just wanna make sure you understand kind of what we're here to do this evening.
Thank you. I guess we can move to review of correspondence.
So I have correspondence from Patty Swatcha. She writes this to Tim London. Hi Tim, I'm writing about the proposal for the property on Market Street that surrounds the Waterstone Park and lake. Everyone uses the trail around the lake, and I'm against this proposal with the property cutting that area off. I understand that they want to build homes, but why can't they end the property as it is staked out and not to the lake? They would have to have a water view. They would still have a water view. I'm very disappointed that they would take the lake access away from the residents on the shores community.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, then we will move on to number 7, commission discussion. Can start down with you, Don. Any questions or concerns or thoughts?
So just to, I guess, repeat what Mateo had just indicated, that we're looking at a rezone of this one parcel, right? That's the discussion point right now. We'll talk about the other one to the north later.
Correct.
And it's the applicant's intent to build. My concern is that we end up getting what we see on the screen, right? I think everyone, and the comments I'm hearing and the proposals we've seen before, there was 18 units proposed a couple years ago. And, this looks like a great development. The homes match, or appear to match what's already on the lake. And, it seems to be being welcomed by the community. I just would want to know, or some assurance from the developer that this is what we're going to get. When they bring a preliminary site plan in front of us, if it changes significantly, if they put 6 homes on it, I don't think they could squeeze that on. I have no idea, but
Right, but if they bring you R1 and it meets R1, then I guess that's where I'm trying to kind of caution the conversation about what they put up.
They could put one house, they could,
Well,
anything within R1, correct?
it's one lot, right? To proceed with anything more than one house with that home would require lot splits. And the R1 designation states that the lot must be 12,000 square feet and meet some other dimensional standards. So again, I appreciate the comments that Commissioner Wolzik's making. I just, again, kind of my earlier comment, you're talking about making this R1. There's standards in R1 for certain uses. If they were to meet those standards through a site plan review, I hate sitting here saying you have to approve it, but again, it's when we're talking about permitted uses and meeting standards, it limits the planning commission's subjective discretion to say no. Like the nicest way to say it.
Yep.
So I appreciate the comments. I just want to make sure, because we are focusing so much on the development, kind of the basic proposal that they're putting forward, but then everybody understands kind of what action you take. And again, it's a recommendation. Township goes to township board for the ultimate approval. But R1 standards, 12,000 square foot lot minimums.
Thank you.
that's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Any discussion?
No, I'll just say that the rezoning request seems to be reasonable to me. Having a commercial doesn't seem to be what anybody wants going forward, and so I somewhat echo the former comments. Just would like to state that.
Okay. Start on this end. You're good?
So I will say, I think it's pretty wise to consider with the market conditions, what they will tolerate in putting in single-family homes. Really does fit within the character of the community that's been developed there for over the last 25 years. I mean, I understand, at least I was told at one point, it was Market Street, and there was an idea it was gonna be full of businesses, for folks, but that's not how it evolved. And so at this point, I think it's best for the community to keep it within the character of the community and move forward with something like this. Oh, one more comment, in the safety path, so there is an ordinance, safety path ordinance that the builder will have to adhere to, so. And I think that'll work out really well for that area, given the way the community uses it there. Okay.
Well, we just all need to remember tonight that we're going to make a recommendation one way or the other, whether it stays C1, which it is now, or we make a recommendation that it goes to R1. But the final decision is made by the township board. And so we will come forward with a decision and a recommendation. I know many of folks that are here tonight have been here 2 years ago when we went through a very emotional meeting and ended up not changing any of the zoning. And so I just want to caution everybody that because we make a decision tonight, we are not the final authority. The township board is, and they will look at our recommendation and decide whether they want to go that way or not. To me, having been on the planning commission 2 years ago, this looks like a much better proposal than what we saw 2 years ago, and seems to fit better in the area. but I don't know how the rest of the board here feels about the situation.
All right. Yeah, and I pretty much agree. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, it was a very interesting meeting, when there was a discussion about, you know, keeping it commercial and things like that, and the sentiment was very clear that, you know, the community would rather see houses there, and I think this is a good proposal. It'll fit, everything will, you know, match up to what's there. I think the only question, and this might be more for planning or down the road, but I know the question came up a couple times about the various HOAs, but, you know, is that a requirement for these 4 houses, or
Master plan required.
From a zoning ordinance perspective, the language in your ordinance, there is nothing that would, there was nothing out of our standards that would require these 4 homes be proposed as a condominium or to be part of an HOA, but that isn't uncommon. Those typically come more with deed restrictions associated with the land and or the way in which the developer plans to assimilate into an already existing development.
okay. Okay.
What does that mean?
Okay.
I can't make.
And with that, I mean, if there's no more questions or concerns, we can entertain a motion to.
Can we ask really a question? I'm sorry.
We're past all that.
Okay.
All right, so I move to recommend approval of the rezoning request for the parcel located on Market Street in Oxford Township, approximately 2.6 acres, tax ID 04-21-200-005, from a C1 local commercial district to R1 single family, 12,000 square foot minimum residential district, based on the findings of fact outlined in section 18.6 of the zoning ordinances set forth in the discussion of the planning commission on the record, which confirm that the request meets the eligibility requirements for rezoning.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any last discussion or questions? Seeing none, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Turner,
Yes.
Dur,
Yes.
Blankenship,
Yes.
Losick,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we will move on to petition PC 25003, petitioner Design House, 3300 Auburn Road, Suite 300, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48325. Public hearing and motion. The petitioner is requesting a rezoning from C1 local commercial to RM multifamily residential, parcel ID 04-21-200-002, located on Market Street, approximately 4.57 acres. We will go through the same order, the same public hearing as before. So if we can start off with Mr. Planner.
Okay, round 2. So the other application for rezoning that's been put forward tonight is for the parcel north of Market Street between Stony Lake and Cedar. We'll go through the same procedure, kind of my review will kind of touch on the same topics. There's some similarities, but again, it is a different, it's a different zoning request. And so there's a little bit, there's a few more things to consider here. That lot is 4.5 acres. It's currently zoned C1. The request is to rezone it to RM, multiple family. Again, the application states the intent is to construct 8 buildings that would house 16 units attached, as you can see. The zones surrounding that parcel are C1, R1A, and R. A review again provides all of the permitted and special land uses available in the RM district. The site does appear to be relatively flat. Again, there is the potential for wetlands to be on the site depending on whether or not they're regulated or unregulated. Will kind of work its way through the site plan process. There are no water bodies on site, however, it is, there are lakes nearby. As we look at the 2019 master plan, again, it does provide some guidance on development goals as it relates to residential development. One of them being, again, to allow for housing opportunities of different densities and styles while remaining consistent with the character of the surrounding area and taking into consideration the availability of public utilities. We do note that the proposed zone does have a strong correlation with this goal as it relates to, again, kind of conforming to the neighborhood around it, the availability for capacities to support it. Another objective in the master plan discusses how commercial and office uses should be focused closer to or along M24, and that you can cite, or that there is a desire to have maybe smaller commercial style neighborhood services, but then again, commercial uses more akin to the major thoroughfares in the community. The 2019 future land use designation does have this site as well as village commercial, which again speaks to commercial uses of a more urban design and layout. Your draft future land use map that's making its way through the review process does have this area as private recreation, probably influenced by the golf course to the north. Again, the 2019 plan is your cornerstone here. There is a conflict. There is the ability for the Plan Commission to consider changing market considerations or other conditions to allow for something that does not exactly fit in with what the future land use designation is. From a development perspective, if rezoned, the lot would allow for various residential, permitted, and special land uses, as noted in our report, accounting for the current housing market in the area and in the region. The site does have development potential under the RM zone. Looking at the review standards, the consistency with the master plan, again, we kind of talked that as far as the future land use goes, it's not compatible with that, but there are some goals and objectives in the master plan that support the use of RM in the area. Compatibility with the site's physical and environmental nature. Again, C1, if you look at all of the uses, if you kind of line them up next to each other, C1 does allow for some pretty intensive uses over the RM. So as it relates to the physical and environmental demands on the site, RM would be a lower intensity use, or has the better probability for a lower intensity use. Compatibility with surrounding zones and uses in terms of environment, density, traffic, infrastructure, and property values. The RM zone is conducive with surrounding conditions and does not appear to conflict with traffic, infrastructure, or property values, or the potential to influence property values. Utility capacity to support the proposed zone. Again, Jim can kind of go through that, but there are public utilities in the area and there is capacity available. Road traffic, permitted and special land uses. Again, when you go through the whole list, those uses are going to generate different types of traffic. Again, citing that RM is less intensive than C1, we wouldn't anticipate any major traffic issues with an RM zone there, as well as the fact that, again, market was designed with traffic in mind and development down the road, given the existing curb cuts and infrastructure of that nature. Demand for the proposed zone. We've talked about it, there's demand for housing. That's not news to anybody. The lot would conform to the dimensional standards of RM, this lot would. And the township to deem if the proposed zone is more appropriate from other potential zones. Again, we talked about large scale commercial and industrial isn't gonna work here based on the location, based on the surrounding uses. Small scale commercial, again, could fit on the site. That's what it's been zoned for quite some time, and there have not been any viable proposals to develop the site as such. The site is big enough to pursue a single family zoning designation. You could do R1 or R1A at this site. It'll come back. So again, it's not necessarily the intent to kind of figure out what zoning's best. They're proposing what they're proposing, but there are some other residential zones that would work on the site as it relates to dimensional, as it relates to the other standards that we've discussed. This would not be spot zoning. There's been no other application for a rezoning in the past year, and any other concerns with public health, safety, welfare, and investment. Again, the RM designation would likely increase the private investment in the area because there's development demand now for that type of use. And we don't foresee any issues with public safety. Again, the fire department reviewed and did not cite any major issues or concerns. So the summary with this is, again, it doesn't completely coincide with your 2019 future land use master plan, but there are some goals and objectives to consider, and as far as the criteria that's been put forward, there are some reasonable considerations here for the RM zone. So I'm, again, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, start at the end.
Mateo, can you zoom in on this image at all in the bottom right corner where it talks about the height of the structures that could be allowed? And I was looking at that.
Give me a second here.
Yeah, right there, that chart right there. Can you can we just talk through that chart for a second? And yeah, I've got it on my screen too. So what we're looking at is the RM, right? This is the 4.58 acres, and the RM would allow up to a 35-foot tall building, 2 stories. Am I reading that right?
So your RM height maximums are actually the 45 feet, 3 stories.
I'm sorry,
And
yeah.
what they've, again,
Proposed.
what they've unofficially proposed with what they're showing is 35 feet at 2 stories.
So, and forgive me, I haven't memorized the other, a 45-foot tall structure, 3 stories, kind of reminds me of like a townhome or something. It could be much denser than this potentially at some point in the future, if for some reason this development didn't happen. Is that correct?
As far as like, would RM allow for something denser than what they're proposing?
Correct.
Yes.
And the maximum lot coverage would then be, it's proposed at less than 40%. Maximum lot coverage of the structures, right?
Correct.
And there's setbacks below.
Yep.
Again, my comment would be concerned, like I mentioned before, about what we see in front of us looks good, in my opinion. It's difficult because if it changes, that would be very difficult to go back on. And so, anyway, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, yes, I mean, I appreciate the comment, appreciate the sentiments, and they're fair questions to ask.
I have a couple more things if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. So would you mind going to the Cedar Lake and Market Street intersection? So we're over there where Cedar Street is. My concern with that is that as these vehicles come and go from that development, that their headlights are gonna be shining right in somebody's window there when they turn out, and I don't really see much benefit to that. Because they can't exit the Waterstone community going north or west, whatever direction that is, on Cedar Street. It seems like not having that driveway there would be best for the community. That's my opinion. I'd like other commissioners' comments on that. Maybe they just, on that driveway, they just don't have a curb cut there and put enough space for the people that live there to turn back out, turn around, and do what they have to do.
I think you'd have a hard time getting the fire chief to agree to take out either of those because, God forbid, one of those were to catch fire, you have one way to bring engines in and then they're landlocked.
I see. Okay.
From my years on the department, I would welcome those 3 access points.
Okay.
And I would say, this isn't a site plan. So like, again, they're all fair comments to be made. It would not relate back to the request about rezoning, but it is a conversation on site plan for sure.
So I stay focused, help me.
Yeah, it's right. No, I appreciate it. I understand.
Is it worth talking about the golf cart path that enters the property line?
I'll talk about it.
Is that from, okay, you'll cover that?
I'll cover that. You can
Okay.
have it.
Okay. Any?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
question?
I'm okay, thank you.
You good? Okay, we'll start down this end. Any questions?
So understanding that RM would allow for multiple family dwellings, what would be that maximum density that the RM designation would allow?
So that's a great question. Your density standards in RM are actually, they're not hard and fast as it relates to you can only put so many. I believe you cannot propose more than 10 units per acre, but that's not the only standard. You have to have so much square footage on the lot per bedroom that's being proposed. And there are different standards that apply to 2-unit attached single-family units as opposed to like multiple family, like multi-unit buildings. So it's really kind of a slided scale answer. My best guess at, again, what would be proposed is that you could go anywhere between kind of the 16 end of unit that they're looking at up to potentially, it is really, like I said, I'm not trying to skirt the question, it's just that it really depends on what they're putting forward that allows for the type of density that they could go for. I think the prior developments that were proposed, I think looked at 26 units on this lot, something around that. So another 10 from what you see here. So I guess I would comfortably say a range anywhere between 15 up to 25, 26, 27 units on the site.
Question? I think we'll move you up the list again and.
All right. Very similar to the previous rezoning application. There is sanitary sewer available on that side of the street that these homes would, this RM rezoning that would be able to connect to. It is in the sewer district. Also, it is in the water district. There's water line on the site. I believe there's a fire hydrant actually already on the site. With regards to stormwater, when Stony Lake Village was developed, there was a storm sewer stub that was installed and left on the property for future connection. We would make them put in a pre-treatment device because I believe that drains directly to the lakes. I don't know if there's any pre-treatment from when this was originally done 25 years ago. With regards to the pavements, again, Cedar, Market, Stony, Lake Drive, they are all under the jurisdiction of the Road Commission. I was looking at the fire department's review. He didn't really have much to say in his review. He just says they don't have any objections. But as Mr. Bailey indicated, I think he's going to want to see more than just the one access point off of Market Street there. That being said, the Road Commission would, they may have some issues with the location of those driveways because they don't like the access points too close to an intersection so a vehicle could turn out. Again, I'm not the Road Commission, but that's just my, my observations with them over the years that they may not want something that's that close. So again, applicant would have to make application to the Road Commission for any improvements on any of those roadways there. The golf cart path, yeah, we noted that whether it's C1, whether it's RM, R1, whatever it is, if a development were ever to go in on that property, you can see that the golf cart path encroaches onto this property, similar to the walkways down on the south end there. So there would have to be something worked out. Either they could tell Boulder Point, move your golf cart path, and Boulder Point would have to reroute that, or there could be an easement that is granted or something like that. But that would be between the two property owners to work out that deal. You can't just go build your stuff on somebody else's property. It was fine when it's a vacant piece of land, but if somebody wants to develop it, they would have to work that deal out with them. So, let me see, I think really that was about it. Again, there's adequate utilities there for it. No relocations needed on this other than the golf cart path potentially. And Road Commission's gonna have jurisdiction over any of the roadways in there. So, any questions?
I think you've answered all mine.
Question, what will be the safety path requirements for this development?
The safety path requirement for that development there, well, we have the safety path on the other side of the road. Let's see if we commented on that. I don't know if we commented on that, Dave. Yeah, I don't believe that there's safety path on the other side of the road. It would be required to put a sidewalk in at minimum, but I don't know about the safety path. We would have to
Well, safety path or sidewalk, would it be, all, along Market, along Cedar, along Stony Lake?
I think so. There would have to be, I think there's something on Stony already, that they would have to connect into there, and on Cedar, there would need to be a crosswalk, so I would assume across the frontage of their property, whether it be a sidewalk 5 foot wide or safety path 8 foot wide.
Sure.
TBD, once we get a site plan of actually what they're going to do. But yes, they would be required to put something along the frontage there. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to the presentation by the petitioner.
Can you speak up?
Please.
Yes. Good evening again. Joe Latosis, Design Knows Architecture. Yeah, so what we have before you is our goal, our plan for the RM. If the project were to be rezoned, or the lot be rezoned to RM, we are proposing to build 16 single-family attached dwellings. I know in the past more have come, but this is what the developer believes is the most appropriate for the site, most appropriate for the community, due to the topography of the site. There's maybe some wetlands up in the northwest corner by the golf course. The placement of these dwellings makes the most sense. The amount of the dwellings makes the most sense for the developer. They believe they can make this a successful project for them and the community. The individual dwellings will be somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 square feet, 2 to 3 bedrooms. Each dwelling will have a 2-car garage. There will be 2 stories with a basement. It will be way under 35 feet. I know we say 35 on there, but the peak of the ridge would be under 35, and the height to these would be measured to the mid-rise of the roof anyway, so it'd be probably in the mid-20s, maybe high 20s. See what I have. As far as an HOA goes, there has not been in-depth conversation on how that would work. We want to get through the rezoning process before we start putting all the eggs in the basket. What else do I have here? So there's no plans to come back with an increased density project. I know this being a rezoning, not a conditional rezoning, there's no weight to that statement, but we'll say that we spent a long time getting to this point, and we feel that any more, any less is not appropriate. This is the way we want to move forward. I will say that the access onto Cedar Street and Stony Lake Drive, I did have discussions with Chief France about this. He did request that we have more than one access to the site. Due to the length from the access off Market Street to the ends of the street, we're required to either provide access to Stony Lake and Cedar, or provide a roundabout or a T hammerhead turnaround. And due to the limitations of the site, those do not make sense. Thus, the access to Stony Lake Drive and Cedar Street. There is a sidewalk on the west side of Stony Lake Drive that we would connect along Market Street and then provide a crosswalk across Cedar Street. The sidewalk on Cedar Street is on the west side of Cedar Street, not on the east side on this property. The easement for the golf cart was brought up. If this does get rezoned as part of the site plan approval, we will be discussing with the new owners of Bowler Point an easement for the golf cart path. I don't think anybody wants to see that being moved. I shake my balls in there as it is now. Moving it further they ruined my golf game. So I think that is the extent of my spiel. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Go ahead and start down there.
It's more of the same about controlling construction debris around the site, those types of things. I wanted to thank you. I think these presentations are a breath of fresh air to the community. I would ask on the, to try to save as many trees as you can along the golf course if possible. Maybe it might help protect the orange trees from the golf balls, who knows? But that's, again, that is probably down the road a little bit, but I just think that helps when a community like this being developed, the less trees get cut down initially, it's less of a shock to the community. And when somebody comes in and just clear cuts everything, it really can upset people. So, thank you, I appreciate the consideration.
Question? Okay, thank you. All right, I think that answers all of our questions.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public testimony, hearing public testimony.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing will start at 7:47. Same rules apply as the last time, so if anybody would like to come up and discuss any topics.
Good evening again, Marianne Keynes, a resident of the Stony Lake Village condos at 149 Stony Lake Drive. It's always a little bit troubling as a logistician to see how we're discussing rezoning when we don't really have a true site plan. There's always that risk that we take because this is the 7th development for these parcels in my years that I've been a resident here that have come and gone. And this by far is the most realistic. I mean, we've seen Disney World wanting to come in these parcels. And this is the most realistic thus far, I will agree to that. But I think us zoning it RM, we are assuming a risk of what we see tonight and what we could possibly see when the site plans do filter in. For instance, I see 8 buildings. My preference is, I think if you fit 7 in there, it'll be more relaxed. You do have a wetland area, and those 2 that are near Cedar Street and Stony Lake Drive are very close to our roads when you look at it a little bit more closer. But that's my preference on that. Why they didn't want to build single family homes on our side too, that could be a possibility as well. But we are taking a risk going with RM because I have seen developers back out after, we've seen that. I know Mr. Turner, we've been around the block a few years and a few developments, and that can always happen. And then once we rezone it, if something comes in RM and it meets the RM requirement, we don't have recourse. So I just have a few, what I might say, concerns and issues. I know they're a little early on. They're probably more site plan concerns, but I have brought them up earlier before, and it's helped shape and influence what down the road with the developer. The first one being, we talked about the HOAs. If these developments come to fruition, they will have to be part of the Waterstone HOA. They will have to pay the annual HOA fees. They would take advantage of the amenities of Waterstone. The rest of us Waterstone residents would expect them to be paying the annual dues and any other assessments that Waterstone residents will come across in the future. So whether those 7, 8 buildings, condos, they would be separate from Stony Lake Village Condo Association. They could form their own HOA or go with those 4 homes and be one HOA, however they want to work it. But that has to be in the future documents that they will be part of the HOA Waterstone development. The other concern I have is we haven't really talked about lake access, especially on this parcel that we're addressing now. This particular parcel, there is no easement for these 8 buildings, these 16 condo unit owners, potential owners, to access Stony Lake outside of the Stony Lake Township Park. That is public access. But that is not really walkable. That's something they would have to get in their vehicle or commute their kayaks, canoes, boats to launching to the park, but they do not have an easement to go directly from their unit down to Stony Lake. They would be trespassers of the Boulder Point Golf Course, and if they tried to come down our Stony Lake Drive and cut in, they would be trespassers of the Stony Lake Village Condo Association, and so that needs to be addressed. What type of perimeter are you going to have between those condo units and the golf course to keep them from looking out the window and seeing the lake and not being able to touch? So they could only be sold as lake view, not lake access units, and I think that really needs to be identified with the developer, that they can't sell them as lake access in that regards. Also, those of us that live on Stony Lake Drive and those that live on Cedar Street, we don't want a curb cut. We don't want additional traffic coming from Cedar or onto Stony Lake Drive. We would prefer that there be in and out on Market Street for this parcel, and no curb cutting on Stony Lake Drive and Cedar Street. You know, on Stony Lake Drive, I've been before you, the township board, I don't know how many times, we're talking about the traffic difficulty.
Yeah, we're past 3 minutes. So
Okay,
I'll
I
let you
am
wrap up.
speaking on a couple extra folks if I can, but I will try to be succinct, excuse me.
Your
Yeah,
3 minutes is
let's
up,
wrap
ma'am.
up.
Okay, then.
Other people can speak, they can speak for themselves, but you can't take their time.
Okay,
This
just
is the point of
considering too,
order.
the infrastructure, there's no lighting, there's no lamp lights on that parcel right now.
Ms. Kane,
Ms. King,
Okay.
your time is up.
Just
past 3
one.
minutes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Beatty, on the board, president of Stony Lake Village Community. Mary Ann did a good job jumping in some of those items. The other thing, and I think we're all real concerned about those the curbs. We have a ton of traffic. We've been working with the road commission on the amount of traffic we have coming through. The gentleman that I've been working with, he said we have more traffic than we should for that road. It's a major cut through, we all know it, we all use it, I can guarantee everyone in this room cuts through to get to Meyer, to get to the school. So that's a real problem. That I've worked at that sign there, our Stony Lake Village sign, and I've seen near accidents all the time, where people fly around that corner. So it's a concern of what would happen there with that entrance, and I'm sure it's real similar on Cedar Street, those are busy corners, and like I said, for the volume of traffic we get, it's very high. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. If there's a way that they could work the curbs differently, so there's another entrance off of Market, that would be preferable. And then as far as, and I'm in agreement, I think this is far superior to the previous presentation. I think most of us in that conversation about the commercial, that's probably not what we would want. But we want to make sure we're making, that a good decision is being made for ongoing in the community. It is such a concern with turning this into RM and what could happen down the road. RM, if we could have an RM small or mini, we'd be much more comfortable. This would be great to say, okay, cap the height at a certain amount, cap it at how many units, and get some of these understandings. And we understand that this isn't site plan, but if we open up the door to RM, what does that leave us with potentially down the road? A lot more traffic, a lot more damage to the property, a damage to the lake, conflicts with different HOAs. So that's kind of our thinking on that. Is there anything else that?
The parallel parking on Market Street, we don't.
Let's keep the discussions this way. You
Okay.
add your
Sorry.
3 minutes.
I did, thank you.
Or
So, and then I guess we would want to know that we could be included in some of the conversations with regard to what's gonna happen with the sign. It looks like it's gonna be grandfathered in, that's great, but what would happen there and how would that be addressed from a design viewpoint? Those are all things that we wanna, we spend a lot of time and money, making sure our community looks good. So those are our thoughts. From my personal viewpoint, I think the RM is better than what we had before. However, it's opening that up to a bigger, a bigger potential that may not be as beneficial.
thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Maria Karisny. I'm at
1390 Glass Lake Circle in the Gulf Highlands, so we're just past Cedar Street, Glass Lake. And I would like to reiterate what a few others have said. I am concerned about making it multiple, the RM rather than the R1, because we could end up, not that they're not trustworthy, but who knows what we could end up with, and we could end up with townhouses again, which no one seems to want. I'm also concerned about the Cedar Street and the Stony Lake access into that development. I would much prefer to see 2 access points from Market Street, because the Cedar Street one is, as was spoken earlier, the headlights would go right into that Bay Village development. And the arguments that have been posed about the fire chief and the access, Bay Village, if I'm not mistaken, on the other side of Cedar Street, doesn't have a cutout onto Cedar or onto the other street on the other side, Cross Street, I think. So why couldn't it be done like what's been done with Bay Village? I don't know what the difference would be. And as far as like the landscape, just to point out to those of you who don't know, all the trees and everything has already been raised. They came in there and they just cleared that land. There's nothing left. They made it completely ugly for us residents to look at now. So it really does have to be developed. We just want it to be developed in a reasonable way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm back. My name is Marilyn Grant, and I live at 154 Stony Lake Drive. And I don't want more traffic. I don't want to see construction vehicles plowing through our streets. If they want to come in through Market Street, that's fine. But we already get enough traffic on Stony Lake Drive, just from the kids getting out of school, going to and from. And they don't go the speed limit. They don't even know what that means. So I don't want more traffic there, and none of us do. I can't point to a single resident of Stony Lake Village that says, sure, we can deal with more traffic. Bring it on. So please bear that in mind, that the residents who are already there are fine with development. What we don't want is the negative impact on our roads.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, again, I'm gonna reiterate what, the others have pointed out. The multifamily, I'm not a fan of it. I don't even know if the township has done a survey of any sort that, says we have a need for it. Has that happened yet, to know that there's a need for multifamily like this?
We've studied this in the master plan.
Okay, but it hasn't been like put out any yet, your new master plan?
Nothing's been,
Right, okay.
no.
So, I think, well, if it's a necessity, it makes sense, but only at this, number of units maximum, and no more. Otherwise, it just looks very congested, you have a lot more traffic. Honestly, I think that aesthetically, it would be better served as just a residential R1, like the other, lots across from it. I don't understand for the life of me why the setback, would need to be in this manner, because, I know from being in Bay Village, our setback, that is Market Street with those homes, and they have the one street with 2 entrances and exits on Market Street. It's a pain in the butt for snow plowing, it's a pain in the butt for the because it's considered an easement, it's not considered a street. So, like the county won't come and plow that. You probably don't know that, but from experience, I know that. So that kind of, the setback, I think, would be better served if it were right at Market Street. And then that would eliminate the need for putting the exits onto Stony Lake and to Cedar. That's, another way I'm looking at this. It would also allow the, properties that have a larger backyard. And, you know, the cart path issue would be, you know, less of an issue, I guess. But, yeah, I wouldn't wanna see more density in that area for those reasons, and, residential one, I think would serve the purpose just as fine. It's my opinion from being here and seeing this. So otherwise, it seems okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
My name is John Krisney. I live at 1390 Glass Lake Circle. Just a couple of things. I'm gonna bring up the cutouts again, and the concerns around that. In particular, on Cedar Street, it seems like there'd be a kind of a significant safety concern around that. Already, we have a safety concern. We don't have any way of actually getting across Market Street to get to the safety path. On the other side of the street, there aren't any stop signs, there isn't a crosswalk, there isn't anything like that. You're gonna be increasing the density, increasing the amount of people that are there in terms of that, who wanna get to that safety path, from that perspective. Putting in those cutouts, you have traffic that's coming both ways, potentially on Market, going into Cedar, or going on to Stony Lake. You have traffic, you would have traffic coming out of Cedar, or traffic coming out of Stony Lake, and then traffic coming out of the proposed new thing. All kind of converging into two parts in terms of that, with a lot of people that are trying to get around on those paths. So that's a concern with respect to that. Also, just to bring up, once again, I think it was brought up with the other parcel, is that I believe that there's proposed parking on Market in terms of that. You know, once again, there's a concern with having that parking out there. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I will take a motion to close the public hearing, public testimony.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed at 8:04 PM. Any last comments from the consultants or team?
So again, I just would like to come back and beat a dead horse, if I may, that, again, this information was voluntarily offered by the applicant. You know, it's facilitated a lot of conversation tonight. But I've also heard, and again, more to the point of the different conversations about, you know, the RM zone, what it allows. Again, the applicant has given us this information, which the planning commission can look at, but again, the consideration here is for the RM zone, and that all that would be permitted or special land use in that zone. And also to the point that, again, the applicant, there's no reason to think that they haven't put their best foot forward here, but further due diligence on development of the site might dictate the moving of structures or infrastructure, or things of that nature that just come more along with the investment of time and money that goes into the next step should they proceed. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I've beaten the dead horse. What you're considering tonight is the RM zone and all that comes with it.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Nope. Okay. We will move on to review of correspondence, if any, for this.
No.
None? Okay. Commissioners' discussions? We'll start down with any questions or?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
I would just say that we need to trust the developer in this one. It's a good site plan, it's better than the ones that were proposed before. So it might be a good time to take that risk. They've got a lot of time and effort and money invested in this, and they most likely won't change it without a good reason, so. That's my thoughts after hearing all of this. But definitely understand that we're hearing your concerns, and when site plan does come up, we'll be taking note.
Okay, thank you. You good?
Couple comments. I think having a sidewalk connecting Cedar and Stony Lake will be good for the community. Right now, what folks do is that they cut through the golf course property in order to get across from, one street to the other. So having an actual path where you're not trespassing on someone else's property would be a good thing. We'll certainly take the developer at his word that he will not, I don't know, for lack of a better term, but bait and switch and increase the density. So we're trusting you on that. And I'll take you at your word. I am a little bit concerned about the cutout approach with, ingress and egress from Stony Lake and Cedar Street. If you do look at the cutouts west of that, you do have multiple access points to market through that cutout. And I think that's, like it was pointed out, it does make it difficult for snowplows, but I do think from a safety standpoint, it would be make a lot more sense if you had 2 or 3 cutouts that actually went to market, as opposed to trying to divert traffic through Cedar or Stony Lake. Those are my points. Thank you.
Well, we're in the same situation with this piece of property as we were with the piece on the south side of Market Street. All we're going to do tonight is make a recommendation one way or the other against the zoning of that piece of property. Now, this is the first step down the road. As the builders or whoever decides to come forward with plans, it will put a lot more concrete around what happens to the piece of property within whatever zoning ends up. And based on the fact that it has been commercial, a C1 for a long time, nobody has bid on it to do anything with it. It may be appropriate that we change it and then see what happens.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of the sentiment that it's nice to see the plan that's put forward. I am in favor of the cutouts on Cedar and Stony, just from a safety thing with getting fire trucks, ambulances, things like that in there. I personally would like to have seen them on the other side of the road as well, but they're already built, so can't go back. But and we do hear all the sentiments. We do understand, the concern with traffic. I honestly think this beats the alternative, because if this was commercial, there'd be a lot more traffic down Market. There'd be a lot more traffic down Stony, which, obviously we keep hearing we don't want to have any more traffic on Stony, but it is a public road. So it's how do we minimize that? And I think this is probably the best thing. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
All right, so I move to recommend approval of the rezoning request for the parcel located on Market Street in Oxford Township, approximately 4.57 acres, tax ID 04-21-200-002 from C1 Local Commercial District to RM Multiple Family Residential District based on the findings of fact outlined in section 18.6 of the zoning ordinance as set forth in the discussion of the planning commission on the record, which confirm that the request meets the eligibility requirements for the rezoning.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any last discussions?
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
I'd just like to thank everybody that came out today to speak about this, this motion here, so thank you very much.
With that, can we have a roll call vote?
Volosik,
Yes.
Blankenship,
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, we will move on to 10, unfinished business, master plan updates.
Okay. Let's scroll down. So as the planning commission is aware, we are working our way through the updating of the master plan. And the step that we find ourselves at is that last month, the planning commission voted to send the master plan draft to the township board for their consideration. The township board reviewed the master plan and had some.
Hang on a second. Folks, we still have a meeting going on. If you are exiting, please carry conversations out in the hallway.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. So the township board reviewed the plan, and provided, some feedback as it relates to some changes that, they recommended. So now what you have in front of you this evening is the new or the revised draft based on those comments. I believe I've explained before, and my apologies, the software that we use to publish these plans does not allow for a simple red line. So what we did was we incorporated all the changes requested by the board and provided you with a memo stating the page and the change that was made for your reference for this evening. So what we are here to do tonight is to have the planning commission make a decision on whether or not they have any concerns, comments on the changes that were made by the board. And then this evening you would take another vote to either recommend sending the draft as it is with these changes back to the board for their consideration in May. Or if there are items or changes that took place that the commission has issue with, you could vote to recommend that it come back to us to make additional changes. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions as it relates to some of the changes that are referenced.
Okay. We could probably start down at the end and any. You're good with it? Okay.
I guess the question for me is, as you look at these changes, did you verify that the changes were accurate? Were there any changes made that stated something that's incorrect?
I would say from a call it a statistical standpoint, a technical standpoint, there were discrepancies that were brought to our attention that we corrected if the number was in fact in error. Some of the changes that you see are the removal of certain words or the changing of certain images or things of that nature. Those changes really, at the end of the day, unless we just completely miss the mark, which I don't think is the case, are more of a subjective kind of request. So again, it's not to say whether or not there was verification as to whether something was right or wrong, if it was more preferential based, but if it was a statistical or technical error, then yes, they were corrected.
Yeah, that was my concern with technical, the factual stuff.
Yes. Yes, yeah,
That was verified that the technical part was indeed needed to be correct.
Yeah, correct. I would, yeah, honestly, I mean, this is a tough process. This is a massive document. And I would offer up both you and the township board pats on the back for kind of the thoroughness in which it was reviewed at both levels. We always strive to be correct and accurate with everything. But you know your town better than anybody else, and where you saw discrepancies, you brought them to our attention, and like I said, if they were to be corrected, they did, but we appreciate the level to which this has been reviewed at both, at both commissions.
Any issues or concerns that you saw, sir?
No. No, I read through all of the changes.
You guys
No,
good?
thank you.
Yeah, I would just say that I read through them all as well, and they all seem very reasonable to me. I'll echo what you said, we beat this thing to death, so.
Yeah, it's good, it's an important document, you can see why, so.
So hopefully it gives us good guidance going down the road, and we've gotta make decisions like we did tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you need a formal motion and vote to pass it up again?
Yep, send it to the township board.
Okay. Okay.
So one last comment.
Sure.
Perfect is the enemy of the good. I think this is a good document, so let's quit trying to make it perfect.
Make sure that's in the minutes.
We didn't vote on that though.
All right, so make a motion to recommend the master plan to the township board for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Okay. We'll move on to new business, the ORC 2025 work plan.
Yep. So as the planning commission's aware, the ORC put together a work plan that was approved 2 months ago, I want to say, at the planning commission level, and it went to the township board. Again, township board put it through a fine tooth comb, which is their job, cited some concerns, and kind of advised a reworking of the work plan. So the ORC got together, took into consideration some of those concerns, and I would say admirably kind of looked at like, let's start to work on things that we can reasonably, let's not bite off more than we can chew. And so what you have in front of you is kind of based on the feedback from the board, but also some feedback from staff, and some of the things that we're fielding at the front counter that we feel could aid in clarification in the ordinance. So what you have in front of you this evening is that revised plan. Again, high priority, we're working on industrial setbacks. We're going to look at mixed use zoning. Medium priority is accessory solar uses. There has been some interest in sites being able to generate energy via solar panels on their site. Currently, the ordinance does not allow for that. Lower priorities are looking at murals, landscaping standards, and accessory dwelling units. And then we added this new contingency. This is the zoning board of appeals and map maintenance or something you're gonna do every year. It's really not fair to call it a priority. This is kind of, you deal with it as it arises. So this is just more of a contingency for us to put a budget number in to present to the board to say, this is what we anticipate, how much of this work we anticipate doing this year based on demand. So with that, again, I'm happy to answer any questions. The action tonight would be the planning commission recommends approval of the ORC's work plan to the board. Board approves it, and we would prepare a budget if the planning commission approves it this evening, or recommends it for approval this evening.
Okay. I guess I'll ask if there's any questions or topics you want to discuss about this.
Sure.
Sir?
If you don't mind. Trees.
Yes.
Keep on bringing it up.
Sure.
It doesn't look like it's making the cut.
That specific line item there was concern at the board level with that. And the sentiment was, it's a broad statement to say that they don't support it. I don't necessarily think that they hate trees.
Agree.
I think it's more or less a concern about the complications
Right.
those ordinances can create, both in enforcement and in realistic development of sites. If I am misspeaking from the township's perspective, I would stand redacted. It wasn't but it was a very big concern, and there was not the sentiment from the ORC that if it were to remain in the plan, that it would get approval from the board from a budget perspective. And if language were drafted and sent to the board, they may not have supported.
Mr. Chair, just ties to the comment I made about earlier when that one north lot off of Market, as they're developing that, the trees that are left in place currently, it wasn't completely clear cut, but there are still some trees in place, and I think that's, not that I wanna save every tree, but I think it just has less of an impact when a development comes along if, versus completely clear cutting the entire lot. So, and I know that a lot of these trees are maybe cottonwoods or other undesirable trees, and maybe that's, one of the issues that comes up related to this, but, you know, we heard a lot of comments, a couple of meetings, in the past about, a development recently over off of Drainer there, where they cut everything down, and, the person that was living to the east of that was looking at this clear cut property, so I just, I think I still wanna just continue to have the discussion and, hopefully plant the seed or the seedling or however you wanna look at it.
Say no
but,
pun intended.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. And you need a vote on that as well.
Correct. Recommendation to the township board, approval of the work plan.
Okay. Entertain a motion on that?
So motion to recommend the ORC 2025 work plan for approval to the township board.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any last discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Communication and committee reports, ORC.
Well, you just approved our work plan to take forward to the township board for their approval. And with their approval comes a budget to work on it. And so our next meeting will be in May. And we appreciate your support at this point of taking it forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any last reports, gentlemen?
We threw it up there? Yes, you gotta do something.
Do something?
Well, I will say that with the first pick of the 2025 NFL draft, the Tennessee Titans did in fact take Cam Ward. So, just so you know, you get home and watch the rest of it now.
Why now?
Again, there's some in the report, there's the municipal projects up there which are ongoing, primarily water, sewer, safety path issues. The second page of that pertains more to this commission here, where it talks about the private development projects. One of them is Sanctuary Hills. That's an 85 unit development that's on Drainer Road. They are working through their engineering still. They're planning on breaking that into 2 phases, though, it sounds like. It came through here as one big project, but they're gonna break it into 2 phases. I mean, the layout hasn't changed at all. It's just the phasing of the project. And then the third one on the list is the villages and peninsula of Tullamore North, we call it. This is the one across from the Oxford Hills Golf Course. They've been delayed because of Eagle, because previously they had recorded a lot of easements with Eagle, and things have changed since those easements were recorded years ago. So they've been working with Eagle to reestablish those, have their wetland people go out from both the private developer and Eagle. And I know that was recently noticed by Eagle. The public gets an opportunity to review the documents and so forth. But that's probably going to be happening within the next month or so. And at that point, I would think they would be coming back to this commission with all the, site plan drawings and things like that at that time. So that one's kind of in the hopper coming down the road.
Mr. Chair, what development is that again?
We refer to it as Tullamore North. They submitted it as the Villages and Peninsula of Tullamore.
The peninsula?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
61 single family,
I remember it.
61 single family home and 105 condominium units. It's right across the entrance. It's on Drainer Road,
Got it.
east side of M24, across from the Oxford Hills Golf Course entrance. Back there, they cleared a lot of trees already. Haven't really done any grading. but that will be coming through pretty soon. Enclaves of Woodbridge, they are very, very close. They're gonna be putting in their road in, I believe, within the next 2 weeks. But all of the utilities are in, and so that's the third and final phase of that one. This is the one up by the high school, the condominium units up by the high school. So there'll be some basements that are gonna be starting to go in there pretty quickly. And then Barron and Wellridge are, they are in the engineering phases as well, so they'll probably be breaking ground on their projects, probably later this year. And as was mentioned by somebody from the public earlier, I believe in your next meeting, you will have another rezoning request for a piece of property at the southwest corner of Market Street and M24. If you know where that is, it's kind of as you go in on the south side of Market Street before you get to Boulder Point Golf Course. There's a kind of a long strip of land in there, so that will be coming in for a rezoning request as well.
On the southwest.
Southwest corner, yep.
Isn't that where the clubhouse is? Isn't that where the clubhouse is now?
There's a piece of property between the clubhouse and M24.
Oh, I thought that was Amazon parking.
No, just to the north of that is where this rezoning will occur. So again, you'll have another decision, to be made on that. I know that we have provided our reviews to Cheryl, and it's currently being noticed in the paper, so that's why the word is out there. Yes. Okay, any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned the 85 homes under Sanctuary Hills.
Yes.
That was, I think, the lot that I was just referring to that was just completely clear cut. And now you're seeing this broken up into 2 phases, is that right?
Correct. So what's the question, I guess?
Well, the question is, it's more of a statement, I guess, now that they've clear cut all that property and now they're saying we're gonna do this in 2 phases. Half of it will be clear cut and left for an undetermined amount of time.
It will be. Yes, I mean, they hope to do it, obviously, depends on the market, they would hope to do phase 1, get the infrastructure in, get some homes going, generate sales from that to help, fund, I guess, phase 2. But yes, you are correct in that property was cleared as one development. Not all of it, I mean, remember, they did the clustering where they brought everything towards Drainer Road and left the portion on the south side with trees.
Right.
But you are correct in that, they will kind of remain unvegetated like that right now for a period of time.
It's too bad. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
I have a question for you. Brad Dewey, 2 permits were required before they could start construction.
And funding.
So funding for the grant has been approved. So it would just be the execution of that funding to move it, for the
Yeah,
grant.
the funding, we received comments back from Eagle. They had a few minor comments.
Okay.
And so we are responding to those. And after that, they should be able to issue the actual sanitary sewer permit. And then there is another permit that is required from the road commission because those are technically road commission roads up there.
Sure.
So we need their approval as well.
And what would be the anticipated timing for that? How long does our road commission take to approve permits?
They're probably 45 to 60 days.
Okay.
I would say. That permit was submitted probably 45 to 60 days ago.
All right.
So I would hope that it would
So
be coming through
imminent.
anytime. Yeah. So.
So
yeah,
there might be a chance to start the project before the end of the year.
You know better, Mr. Water and Sewer Committee Chairman.
I think his answer to the question is it moves at the speed of government.
Yeah, I understand.
Moves at the speed of government and get some
No,
funding.
I'm surprised these
Obviously,
came through as fast as they did.
you are well aware that we need to determine how it's going to be funded.
Yep.
But I think the permits will be in place.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Anything else?
Sure. Let's see.
We got pick number
You're
2.
not breaking in the new guy?
I think you just
I
want
know.
to beat
Well-
Jim Sharp for number of words spoken for the night.
Yeah, I know. It's, yeah.
No, I mean, from planning perspective, as Jim had mentioned, we will have another rezoning consideration in 2 weeks,
Market Street. Trying to think if there's gonna be anything else on that agenda as well. Is that fireworks, maybe? Yeah.
Fireworks extended hours.
Yep, so there are, we're getting into summertime season, so most firework tent reviews are done administratively, but they can request an exception for operating hours, but the planning commission needs to provide it, so that'll be on the next meeting. And then, just standard business, things have been really busy at Township Hall, but those are kind of the big things for the next meeting.
Thank you. With that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So, motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are done, 8:31.